I'm going to be focusing on having about 10 different replays, seeing how the deck does depending on how things are, and seeing how, just generally reviewing how good or not these cards are. So without further ado, let's go. So that's the opponent. This is my cards. I'm specifically only going with my cards, and it's barely doing anything. Their card, traditionally, there you go, you've got Dark Magician using its effect. For anyone who doesn't understand, the 300 point reduction is based on this field spell, which is cutting down anything which is Dragon, Spellcaster and Fairy types. So that's why his Dark Magician is also being reduced. This card prevents level 7 or higher monsters from being summoned, which is a bit of a disaster for me because I'm stuck with my 7 Roads Magician in hand. Although I was able to get this trap card off, Dark Liberation, which basically acts like a mirror force provided you have at least 4 different spellcasters in your graveyard. This was a clever thing for me. That spell card is able to actually boost your spellcaster by 1,000 attack points just by discarding a card, so I was able to do that twice. But the problem is I ended up losing out on a lot of monsters, and now I'm facing his answerer, the Demonic Swordsman. It's level 6. For some reason I decided not to play anything. I don't know why, but I suppose I didn't feel there was a need to. I just set a couple of things and summoned the level 6. Unfortunately, he did use the Call of the Earthbound, which is got the same effect as what happens in the original game. And then I lost my monster, and then I lost out to his boss monster called the Royal Demon's Heavy Metal. Okay, so playing the second one, and yeah, I'm starting off, so I go into the level 6 Answerer, and then he goes into the Fiery Noodle creature. He uses the effect which reduces your monster's defense points by 600, but that isn't of any use considering that it wasn't in defense mode. The cards he had face down were, he had a couple of things. He had this counter bomb, which basically inflicts 200 damage times the level of the attacking monster to your opponent. So if I had attack, that would be 1200, for example, for this. The other card was a bit of a bluff, Road Magic Explosion, which is to inflict 400 damage to your opponent for each card they control, and it can only be used if you have a level 7 or higher spellcaster type monster. So you've got Road Magician there, and this doesn't apply to this one, it's just to this one at the moment. And so I've just summoned a little bit more field presence. You've got Feral Imp, and then you're actually able to tribute summon into 7 Magician. Its effect it basically sends a card to the graveyard, then it gains 300 attack times the number of different attributes. So there were 3 different attributes, it was able to use that effect, and then I lost out to it. I was able to get 2 level 5s out, get into the level 6 to change its battle mode, and then was able to attack. Unfortunately, I did take a bit of damage there, but I was able to bring it back. Okay, he's going into Rush Dragon Dragears, which is Rook's boss monster, and actually sends a different copy of it to the graveyard. I'm able to draw 3, and then I was able to just set a card and then bring out a level 5. He gives me 1,000 life points, and in exchange to boost that monster's attack by 1,000, I was able to trigger again the Dark Liberation and completely destroy his field. And that's basically like an MST, this card. I was able to, unfortunately, blind shot the wrong card, but they're both the same copy of the card, so it wouldn't have made a difference. As for the third one, so here we go. Again, he's using the card which reduces attack stat by 300. I've been able to go into several monsters and was able to get over his Curry bot. He draws into 3 cards. He uses Hammer Shot, which destroys my spell or trap card, and then summons Faith Bird and does a little bit of damage there. I use the equivalent MST again, and I'm able to kind of blindside his Faith Bird and attack directly. This card here helps to, Curtain of Sparks reduces an attacking monster by 500 attack points. Unfortunately, I'm not able to use it because of the hammer shot, and it was able to go into his boss monster, which is Royal Demon's Heavy Metal. I was able to draw into a new card thanks to this spellcaster, Mystic Dealer, and was able to then attack into various cards. I was able to support this card again with that spell card which boosts by 1,000, called Wind Spirit's Blessing, and luckily I triggered Dark Liberation again. I'm able to draw into a fresh hand, bring out 7 Rose Magician, and then the opponent surrenders. So for the fourth one, this is where we're facing actually Rook's deck. This is kind of his structure deck. So this one is a trap card. This destroys all monsters on the field. It's a bit like a dark hole. Yeah, you've got 2 of those. He brings out 3 Red Eyes Black Chicks, and then Justice Dragon from that. I draw into a fresh hand. Unfortunately, I didn't get anything too decent. I just basically trade this card for, an extra draw, gain 1,000 attack points, and then attack directly. That card is able to recover other cards, and then they go into... This card is awful. It just significantly decreases your monster's points. Fortunately, I was able to actually get Answerer to destroy it. And Justice Dragon then is sacrificed for Rush Dragon Dragears. Luckily, I was able to get the effect off where it just crashes into Answerer. I was able to go into my level 5 and then just attack. Unfortunately, this card destroys my monster if I destroy another card. And then he's able to bring out his Red Eyes Black Dragon and use Infernal Fire Blast to almost destroy me. Luckily, I was able to get the spell card to boost its attack points up again, but I ended up attacking considering this card finished me off. I had basically 13 spellcaster monsters in my graveyard, which boosted up this effect of this trap card. Okay, so here we go. We've got another deck specialising in the Red Eyes Black Dragons. So again, his ones are very much the common cards that were used before. I'm just using, again, the standardised structure deck, no improvements, no differences, just exactly carbon copy. Again, it doesn't really do anything for me. All of my cards are destroyed, and again, this acts like an MST if you've got a dragon on the field. Luckily, I was able to do a lot of damage that turn, but the opponent has a few recovery cards out there. Justice Dragon effect works again, recovering a dragon, and then acting as 2 tributes to summon Rush Dragon Dragears, and then being able to go over 2 of my spellcaster monsters. I draw into nothing particularly good, but I am able to boost my level 5 monster, the Hydro Magician, to 2,700 to kill the Dragears. Unfortunately, he's able to bring out a second one and attack directly, and then I'm left with 400 life points. Luckily, I draw into 4 cards, and I've got a couple of these Dark Liberation, in case anything went wrong. Unfortunately, I do lose to a Inferno Fire Blast, but that's the way it goes. So here we go, we've got another duel with a Blue Eyes specialist this time. I'm able to just attack directly. I don't know whether the opponent is trying or not, whether he's committed to doing anything. But it appears not, because I'm able to just a direct attack for game. So we've got replay 7. So this is again against a Red Eyes Black Dragon deck. I'm just going to my level 5, 2 Hydro Magicians that are just attacking over. Unfortunately, I was only able to get 1 attack off because of the trap card. That, fortunately, hasn't affected me too badly. Unfortunately, he was able to get out a Dragonic Slayer, which is also Spell and Trap Destruction. So I was able to get out my Windcaster Torna to change its mode, as the boss monster had 0 defense, and then just run over it. He's using Mountain as a means of, protecting himself and to boost up his dragon types. Unfortunately, I do lose both my monsters to Rush Dragon Dragears, and I'm not drawn into anything particularly useful. I used the MST effect again, but blindsighted a Inferno Fire Blast, but it doesn't make any difference at the moment. Unfortunately, he brings out another Rush Dragon Dragears, and he's going to attack me directly for game. So we've got replay 8, and he basically sets everything. So you've got Call of the Earthbound, you've got Counter-Offensive Drago Strike, and you've got, well, 2 copies of that, and you've got the Dragon's Upsetter. Luckily, I was able to do a little bit of damage there through Torna's effect, but otherwise I would have done nothing. He does go into a Blue Eyes White Dragon, which is a legend card, which means he can only use 1 of those within the deck and cannot have any other legend cards. Unfortunately, I lose out my card to Hammer Shot, and he's able to put a lot of damage on board. I'm not really able to recover at this point, so I pretty much just submit to losing this game. He does try and, flex a bit. He's using Piercing, which does piercing battle damage, and then, if you've got no monsters on the field, you're not going to get Piercing off, are you? The next replay is number 9. So he manages to bring out his Dragolite. Again, he's got a Dragon Encounter, which lets him special summon a Dragon monster from his hand if he wants to. Unfortunately, I do lose one of my monsters to the previous trap card as well. He's got 2 copies. Unfortunately, he crashes Faithbird into Hydro Magician, so I lose all my monsters. I also trigger his trap card, so I'm unable to get over that card and have to pretty much beat his defense monster and then leave it. Unfortunately, I do lose Dark Liberation, otherwise that would have been an effective play for me to keep them all in attack mode. Now currently losing by about 200 life points. Everything I've basically put into defense mode. I was hoping that from this Mystic Dealer I was able to get a better card from its effect, but doesn't happen. Draw a couple of cards, just set everything and hope that things are going to turn out okay. I try and use the effects of that spell card to boost it to 3,500, successfully getting over Dragears, but then becoming susceptible to counter-offensive Dragon Strike. And then he manages to get Dragears off again, and does exactly 4,400 points of life point damage. And the final replay is this one. I think in this case he is just using the pure structure deck off Rook. I think those are the correct cards. Luckily I was able to do 1600 points of damage by flipping the right monster off to... but unfortunately he does get a Blue Eyes White Dragon and the Dragonic Slayer, and I've got nothing left. I draw a brand new hand, manage to get the level 6 off and use the effect of the Wind Spirit's Blessing. Unfortunately, it wouldn't have made any difference if I had simply crashed into the Blue Eyes White Dragon. He would have just summoned something else and defeated me regardless, so it didn't matter which target I chose. I draw into a number of cards, use the MST effect of Magical Stream, and managed to get Torna into the graveyard, unfortunately, and nothing has happened, unfortunately. And then I of course lose to Rush Dragon Dragears. Generally speaking, I think that this Stratch deck is awful out of the two. At least there's some consistency with Rook's Stratch deck. This one doesn't have any at all. No real good effects. I mean, the battle position change of Torna is okay, and there's a couple of decent cards such as that Mirror Force, basically from a spellcaster version. Other than that, there isn't really anything to say about the deck. I wouldn't consider buying one because even to these standards where Yu-Gi-Oh! Rush Duels has just started, it's incredibly weak. So what do you think of this deck? Is this something you consider looking at, or is this a bit too weak for you to consider? Whatever you think, leave your comments down below, like the video if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe.